we'll also be watching the 007 of Robert Soroka. He had a great drive yesterday afternoon in one of the later races of the day. The 007 didn't have the greatest start, but did come on strong towards the end of that race. But as you mentioned a little bit earlier, as we do have that battle in the points for second still, Kenny Reedman still within striking distance of the 31 of Matt Graham. Now, it's not a complete done deal. If Matt Graham has a completely awful day today, then the 42, if he continues to do what he's been doing the last several rounds, he's podiumed 3 of the last 4 rounds here in the Emzone Radical Cup Canada Series, then he could potentially take over second spot. But Matt Graham, as long as he has a good solid run, as he's been doing, I mean, he's had 2 podiums in the last 4 races as well, so take nothing away from the driver of the 31 car. But realistically, the driver that we'll all be watching here today will be behind the wheel of that number 77. Starting on pole, he has been the class of the field here in 2022. The story has been Jonathan Woolridge, and yesterday was nearly untouchable in that 77 car. Did almost get into trouble while maneuvering through lap traffic late in that race, and got up in the grass at turn number 3. It almost cost him a chance at the win. Nearly went all wrong, but Woolridge hung on to it and then eventually stretched out his lead once again. But that little mishap cost him 5 seconds in 1 lap.
And of course, the grid for our third and final Emzone Radical Cup Canada Series, based on your finishing order in race 2 yesterday. There you see that black and orange number 77 car, the Emzone CJ Campbell sponsored Jonathan Woolridge, and right alongside of him is Kenny Reedman in car number 42. They will bring the field into turn number 9. The Canadian Tire Motorsport Park Camaro safety car has headed for pit road. The field winds through turn 9.
Row number 2 has Graham and the 007 of Soroka as they inch their way through turn number 10. Now onto the front straightaway, as you can hear the RPM start to pick up in those Hayabusa motorcycle engines in the back end of these Radical Cup cars. And we're already side by side headed down towards turn number 1. What a start from, I think it's a 07 of Tim Sanderson, from mid-pack to about second now as he chases a 77 of Woolridge into turn 2.
That was a big move down on the inside. He got inside of Kenny Reedman, and Reedman gets shuffled back. So it is the 07 of Tim Sanderson who started back in row number 3. So he's gotten off to an amazing start here on this opening lap. This race scheduled for 40 minutes. As they work their way through turn number 4, it is Jonathan Woolridge, as he did yesterday a couple of times, able to pull the breakaway early. And as they exit Moss Corner and head up the Andretti straightaway for the first time, it is Woolridge by about 4 or 5 car lengths. But a great run there by Sanderson in 07. How he came off of that 3rd row and grabbed second going into turn 1. I'd love to see a replay of that one. Over the crest of the hill into the top of the S's, Jonathan Woolridge, your race leader. 07 Tim Sanderson in second, and Kenny Reedman through turn number 9 sitting in 3rd.
And those cars have opened up a little bit of a gap now on what looks to be the 30 of Stephen Chen. The 42 of Reedman still holding down 3rd spot. And it is not Chen, as a matter of fact. It's Daniel Ali, or no, it's the 88 of Adam Ali, I should say, in 4th spot. So he's up 2 positions from his original starting spot. The 30 of Stephen Chen is in 6th, just behind the 31 of Stephen Clark, as the field sorts itself out. So Sanderson less than a second behind. So this is as close as the field has been able to stay to the 77 of Jonathan Woolridge in the early going of this race. Less than a second after lap number 1, and Sanderson is right on it as those 2 cars start to stretch a bit of a gap now on the rest of the field that is giving chase. Battle is heating up just a little bit now for 3rd spot. Adam Ali starting to turn up the pressure on the 42 of Kenny Reedman.
And it is Tim Sanderson in that Northwest Atlantic sponsored 07 car, his best race lap yesterday afternoon was a minute 22.895, and I think he has found a little bit more pace as he keeps the race leader, Jonathan Woolridge, in his sights. Close battle going on here for third. Kenny Reedman in third, but starting to lose contact of the second place car there of Sanderson, and he is coming under fire from 88 Adam Ali. That is a great little battle going on here now for that third place position.
Don't count out the 31 in there as well. Matt Graham is tucked up in behind that battle for third spot as well. You have to look back to the 007 of Robert Soroka. He was so strong in the late going of yesterday's race, completely missed it off the initial start here today, and he fell back 4 positions. As a matter of fact, 5 now. He's sitting in 8th spot on the racetrack. So the 07 has a lot of work to do, but still a lot of racing left to go. Again, a 40-minute timed race, and we're just over 3.5 minutes in.
Working lap number 3, Jonathan Woolridge at the line had about a second and a half on Tim Sanderson. The temperature out here this morning, I think the coolest track temperatures these drivers have had to deal with. It's only about 15 degrees Celsius after enjoying beautiful weather here on Friday and again yesterday when the track temperature was optimum for these Michelin tires. And right now, the lap time's a minute 24.061, and that is almost 2.5 seconds slower than the times they were running here yesterday in the 2 Emzone races. Driver coming up here now to challenge is the 31 of Matt Graham, is closing on Kenny Reedman, who has given up that third place spot to Adam Ali. So Reedman, for some reason, a little bit off the pace from what he showed here yesterday, with a couple of solid second place finishes behind Jonathan Woolridge.
That car just doesn't look quite as comfortable as it did yesterday. And you mentioned the track temperature is very, very different this morning than it has been realistically all weekend long. So every single track session that these drivers have been on have been able to dial in a certain setup into these race cars. As you see, the 88 of Ali still in third spot as he makes his way around the 42. And now Graham does the same thing in turn number 5. So mark the 31 up, and all of a sudden Kenny Reedman drops down 2 positions in a matter of a couple laps. So the 42 goes from 3rd all the way down to 5th as he tries to battle back down the Andretti straightaway up alongside the outside of Graham, but Graham definitely has the preferred position on track to the inside in turn number 8, and looks like he'll hold off the challenge of the 42 in 8 and now into 9.
And again, this is the battle for second overall in the championship. Matt Graham ahead of Kenny Reedman, who sits 3rd in the point standings. So exactly as they run on the racetrack, they work up under the Michelin bridge back into turn number 1. Kenny Reedman trying to keep it close. So I'm not sure if it's the changed track conditions, but Kenny not showing the pace he had here yesterday. His fastest lap is a minute 25.922, and he was into the low minute 22s. And now we've got a waved caution flag at 5C. Looks like we've got a car off to track right. You can just barely see from our video shot here, very close to the Armco barrier. So a local yellow there in 5C as we look at this race that's going on for the 4th and 5th place positions. They will go by that car that is starting to roll, and that is the 73 that was up against the wall there, and that is the Peter Dyke number 73 car. Looks like he's going to limp back to the pits. Race leader Jonathan Woolridge out of turn number 10. He will put lap 5 up on the board, and he has got the fastest lap of the race, a minute 22.184, the only driver to get into the minute 22s.
Yeah, so good heads-up move by the marshals and officials around the track, able to see that the 73 was struggling to get going and did end up refiring. Now the 73 of Peter Dyke back down pit lane, so he finds the safety of pit road. Obviously, that car is well off the pace, and I believe it's going straight back to the paddock area. But avoid a full course caution with 7.5 minutes complete in this race. And there you can see the 73 is still on pit road, but limping very, very slowly. So that was the car that was stopped down the Andretti straightaway, just on the exit of turn number 5 in the grass, and the crew will take a quick look at it, but essentially his race is done as we stay under green. Still Jonathan Woolridge out in front, about 6.2 seconds his lead over second place Tim Sanderson. And don't look now, but Adam Ali has started to string together some very consistent laps, and those laps just happen to be consistently fast. So he's about 2.3 seconds behind the 07 of Sanderson. The last time they crossed the stripe, we'll see what that difference is when they make their way past the flag stand this time. But Graham still under pressure from the 42 of Kenny Reedman. So once the 31 got by the 42, Reedman really seemed to settle in. That car settled down, and he's been able to at least keep pace with the 31, who is just ahead.
Kenny Reedman has just turned his fastest lap of the race, dipping in to the minute 23s, as was the case with Matt Graham, 31, who has just turned in his fastest lap. It comes on lap number 6 as we come up on 9 minutes in, and just a little over 31 minutes remaining in this 40-minute Emzone Radical Cup Canada third race of the weekend. This additional event added in to make up for the non-championship race that was run here on Saturday of Victoria Day weekend. Jonathan Woolridge, your race leader. Now we've got the 99 car joining 73. Peter Dyke. Veteran Alan Shaw is on pit road as well. So a couple of drivers heading to pit road early. Shaw being shown here in 14th and Peter Dyke in 15th. Kelly Smith did not start. And of course, the word on Jeff Williams, who was on the entry list. Jeff dealing with some work to do with school opening on Tuesday, so he never made it to the racetrack. As we come up here on lap number 7, the leader has gone through. Tim Sanderson in second, Adam Ali closing right there, and Matt Graham has not been able to shake Kenny Reedman, and Robert Soroka closing here in the 007. So very shortly we could have a three-way battle going on.
Oh, into 3. Ali was in the runoff area on the outside of turn 2, and Sanderson saw him before they got to turn number 3, gave him a little bit of space as the 88 able to come back on track, but it was looking like grass for a little while for the driver of the 88. Managed to stay on track, and not only that, managed to pick up a position. So moved the 88 of Adam Ali up into second position, bumping the 07 of Tim Sanderson back by 1. And Ali had been turning laps about 6 or 7 tenths of a second quicker than the 07 ahead of him. We'll see if he can keep that pace and try and track down your race leader. He has a long way to go. Jonathan Woolridge had about a 10-second gap back to second place, Tim Sanderson. And Sanderson is not done yet. He caught the draft down the straightaway into turn number 8. He poked a nose, couldn't make it stick, as Ali will take this lap in second spot through 10, and he'll head back onto the front straightaway.
And Sanderson definitely appeared to have the faster race car up the Andretti straightaway. Adam Ali up into second here after finishing 6th in the second race yesterday and was 7th in race 1. So he has really improved, and just looking at his lap time was in the minute 23s. And that is exactly where he's running out here on the racetrack, although the conditions not as good in terms of track temperature, and we've not seen the kind of laps that we saw here earlier in the weekend when Jonathan Woolridge was into the minute 21s, and in fact in winning race 1 he even dipped down into the minute 20s. So up the Andretti straightaway, Jonathan Woolridge still holding a lead of some 11-12 seconds, but very close for second, third, fourth. Robert Soroka right there, and that battle for 5th between Kenny Reedman and Robert Soroka Matt Graham 31 still in fourth. So we could see some moves late in the race involving those drivers only separated by a few seconds. And Reedman in 42 now has been reeled in by Soroka in the 007. They were second and third in both of the races yesterday. And here is Soroka trying to get around that number 42 car of Reedman. And you get the feeling, I don't think this is just different track conditions. Kenny Reedman, something may be amiss in that car where he's just not capable of running the same kind of lap times he did yesterday when he finished second. Side by side, and Soroka will make the pass up over the hill into turn number 2. So Kenny Reedman, who started on the outside of row 1, has gone down into 6th.
So these two drivers started second and third on this race today. Kenny Reedman starting in second, Soroka in third spot. They both find themselves in 5th and 6th. So Soroka seems to be a car that's coming on, whereas, as you mentioned, Pat, the 42 of Kenny Reedman is a driver that is falling back as we see a little bit of sprinkle on the lens of the camera in turn number 5. So potentially some liquid sunshine starting to join us here in turn number 5, and that will affect the handling of these cars. The good news is that these Michelin tires are up to optimum temperature at this point, so they stick a little bit better as the 99 of Alan Shaw released from pit lane. Looks like he's headed back to the paddock area as he signals to the marshals where he is headed. But the fact that these tires are up to temperature, if the track does get a little bit damp in spots, it won't really affect. It'll make it a little slippery, don't get me wrong, but it's not going to be like a full wet scenario. If we do go full wet, then the slick tires obviously won't stick at all. But a little bit of a sprinkle shouldn't really hamper them too much.
And now we've got Matt Graham in car number 31 coming up here to challenge Sanderson for that third place spot. Graham takes a look on the inside into turn number 3. They are just a couple of car lengths apart. This is your battle for third and fourth. And then the 007 of Robert Soroka in 5th. Kenny Reedman still holding on that 6th place position. Into the Moss hairpin, that green and silver 07 of Sanderson coming under fire here from Matt Graham 31, who is second in the championship behind Jonathan Woolridge. Woolridge's lead up front is down to 8.6 seconds. So Adam Ali in car number 88 did have a faster lap than Woolridge and has closed the gap. We'll continue to monitor that as this battle for the second second place position. And it looks like Sanderson did get a, no, this is the 31 of Graham who has come up on Sanderson. The race going on for third and fourth.
Once again, Adam Ali chips into that lead by just a little bit more. Ali up 4 positions from his initial starting spot. Now 8.1 seconds to your race leader. Now we say he is chipping in. He cuts in by about half a second as we do see a little bit more moisture starting to fall in different areas of the racetracks. The turn number 3, we're seeing a few drops as well. But again, nothing too heavy. It's really just an Irish mist at this point. Jonathan Woolridge may be backing it down to make sure that he stays out in front. He obviously has built up a fairly comfortable gap at the front of the field, but this battle here into 5, Graham still dicing with the 07, and there he goes underneath Sanderson in 5B, but Sanderson coming back strong. He got a great run out of that corner there, side by side 5C, and now down the Andretti straightaway. Don't count out Robert Soroka. He'll have a huge toe because these drivers are going side by side. They're poking a big hole in the wind in front of them, so the 007 is poised to join this party as well.
In at turn number 8, Matt Graham will hold on to that third place position, having gotten around the 07 of Sanderson at Moss Corner. And exactly as you said, David Bradley, there's the 007 diving into turn 10. And these 3 cars locked together in a battle going on for that third place position. Sanderson takes a look down on the inside. So it's the 31 of Matt Graham in third, 07 Tim Sanderson fourth, and 007 Robert Soroka in 5th. A great three-way battle. Kenny Reedman in car number 42 runs in sixth.
Oh, Soroka look to the outside in turn number 3. Sanderson cut back across just in front. Some sprinkles starting to fall now almost all the way around this racetrack in turn 2 especially. And the lead at the front has been cut down to 7.6 seconds as we watch this battle for third spot, currently held by the 31 of Matt Graham. Turn 5 is where it really seems to be. The rain seems to be most of the issue for these drivers, and it's tough because that's a hard-braking, slow-speed corner compared to any of the other turns around this 10-turn circuit. But Graham continues to hold a bit of a gap now, about 5 car lengths over the 07 of Tim Sanderson. Soroka in tow and poking down into turn number 8, but he decides to back off just a little bit. They'll follow single file through 8 now into 9.
We've got a battle as well going on for 6th and 7th. Daniel Ali in car number 32, who is running in 7th, is all over Kenny Reedman for that 6th place position. Reedman's lap times have dropped off, 1:27 on the previous lap, as these drivers backing out of it a little bit with that light mist that continues here on the racetrack. As they work down into the bottom of turn number 2, 31, Matt Graham holding third. Here comes Soroka attacking on the outside into turn number 3, trying to get around Sanderson. Can't make that move work. And the trio will take off down the short chute, coming in here to that downhill sweeping left-hander. Here comes Soroka. He's going to try to set him up coming into Moss Corner. Tries the outside line. Gets into a big slide. Sanderson spins in 5. Soroka was able to avoid the spinning race car. Reedman will go through along with a host of other cars. And now he will get rolling again, but problems there for the 07 of Tim Sanderson.
Sanderson, just as the weight went off the chassis at the top of the hill in turn number 5, so through 5A, and just as the chassis was at its lightest point, that's when the tires broke free of traction. And again, the track is a little more damp up in turn number 5 than it is pretty much anywhere around this circuit at this point. It really cost the 07 as he was under pressure from the 007 of Robert Soroka. So now the 31 of Matt Graham does have a little bit of breathing room because the 007 had to check up for the spinning 07 of Tim Sanderson. That cost him a little bit of drive. And it cost him a little bit of space on this racetrack, too. So Jonathan Woolridge continues to lead now again by 8.2 seconds. So he's really turned up the pace once again over the 88 of Adam Ali, Matt Graham, Robert Soroka, and Daniel Ali in the number 32 is now in 5th position.
Race leader Jonathan Woolridge on his way up the Andretti straightaway, working lap number 15. We're coming up on the 21-minute mark, so just past the halfway point. Adam Ali in car number 88 after finishing 7th in race 1, 6th in race 2 yesterday, has come storming up into that number 2 spot. The race leader on the start-finish straightaway, Jonathan Woolridge, about 19 minutes away from the perfect season in the Emzone Radical Cup Canada Series presented by Michelin. He has had as flawless a season as you can have. Just that second place finish here back on Saturday of Victoria Day weekend in the non-championship event. But since then, he has been absolutely dominant. Soroka, what a great bit of driving he did to avoid the spinning car of 07 Tim Sanderson, who is down in 8th. But now Soroka attacking Matt Graham for that 3rd place position. Soroka in 4th, Daniel Ali up into 5th. So he has gotten around Kenny Reedman in car number 42, who is 6th. 7th is 30 Stephen Chen. 8th, the 07 of Tim Sanderson. 9th, 12 is Mark Boyd. And Jonathan Labbe in car number 47 rounds out your top 10.
It looks like any little bit of precipitation we were having around this track has somewhat stopped. It doesn't look like it's getting any worse, at least, and the track conditions are still pretty good as they work their way through turn number 4. Now up into turn number 5. You can still see some moisture on the camera lens in turn number 5. So that area would be the only problematic one for these drivers as Soroka tiptoes his way through there, does not try to challenge the 31 of Matt Graham as they head down this big back straightaway, headed towards turn number 8. Soroka is definitely in that tow as they head down the straightaway, and Sanderson is battling back. He's now right on the back end of the 30 of Stephen Chen.
And Kenny Reedman is now going to come under fire from Stephen Chen in car number 30 and Tim Sanderson in the 07. So some multi-car battles going on here all the way through the top 10, including this fight for third between Matt Graham 31 and the 007 of Robert Soroka. They work up across the line and down into the bottom of turn number 1.
So they'll follow single file through turn number 2. Again, the number 007 of Soroka gets a good run off of 2 to the inside in turn number 3, and that is third spot for the driver of the 007, Robert Soroka. He made it look easy after chasing the 31 of Matt Graham for so long, and then saw that opportunity, a solid drive off of turn number 2, carry that momentum to the inside. The door opened up as Matt Graham took the regular racing line, and in through the opening went the 007, but a big wiggle there in turn number 5 from the driver of the 07, again trying to get back on the throttle on the exit of 7. That's when the car wiggled the most, as that area is still quite damp, so that will be a tricky spot on this racetrack for these drivers. For Soroka, who's trying to hang on to the final podium spot, and for Graham, who's trying to battle back up there.
Working lap number 18, the battle here for third continues into turn number 9. Our new third place driver, Robert Soroka, into 007. Matt Graham 31 now fourth. Daniel Ali 32 in fifth. Kenny Reedman still holding on to sixth. Tim Sanderson has moved to seventh. Eighth is 30 Stephen Chen. Then in ninth, the number 12 car of Mark Boyd, and 8 Jim Hallman rounds out the top 10 as we complete lap number 17 and come up on a little over 15 minutes remaining. It has been all Jonathan Woolridge with a 8.3 second lead over Adam Ali. Those two cars well spaced out on the racetrack, and it does look as though we're getting a little bit more moisture on that Andretti straightaway.
Now, I might have been a little bit hopeful in saying it had let up. In most places around this track, it looks like it has picked up in intensity, at least in turn number 5. But to give you an idea of the degradation of track conditions at this point, the quickest lap of the race. Oh, and we do have one in the tire wall, and that might be your second place runner. It is the 88, Adam Ali, into the tire wall. That appears to be turn number 8 at the end of the Andretti straightaway. So problems for your second place driver. And it is just a local caution at this point. Still green flag as Ali into the tire wall. And it looks like this one might require a tow. Yeah, he's motioning to the quarter marshals in that area that he unable to get that car refired. Appears to be damaged in the left front corner. And just from the look of the tire marks, he might have just skidded off straight when he went to hit the brakes, or at least try to round the corner in turn number 8. And into the tire wall goes your second place runner. So that promotes the 007 of Robert Soroka up to second spot. Matt Graham back up on the podium into third.
And then fourth will be Daniel Ali 32. And we do go to a full course yellow 26 minutes in to this 40-minute Emzone Radical Cup Canada race presented by Michelin. If you've just joined us here this morning at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, our opening race of the day featuring the Emzone Radical Cup Canada cars presented by Michelin. And the full course yellow is out. Pat Gonzalez along with David Bradley here in the announcer's booth. Our broadcast available at 90.7 on your FM dial, and it looks like Ali, and you're carrying a lot of speed up the Andretti straightaway, and then braking for turn number 8. He just slid off the racetrack and nose first into the tire wall. And again, this is going to shuffle our running order. Heartbreak for Ali, who had turned in by far his best drive of the weekend after finishing 7th in race 1, 6th in race 2. He got off to a good start, charged up there into 2nd, and was only about 8 seconds back of the race leader, Jonathan Woolridge. And the red Canadian Tire Motorsport Park Camaro safety car is going to pick up the race leader, Jonathan Woolridge. And now, can this play in to Woolridge's desire to run the table and win every one of the races here in the championship? Because hopefully they can get that car out of there, and we'll have at least a few minutes of racing before the 40-minute clock on the event runs out here this morning.
Ali is up and out of that car, which is great news. He's able to get out under his own powers. The medical crew on site to give him any assistance if need be, and the tow truck already on scene. So hoping this will be a quick cleanup, as they'll be able to hike up that Radical Cup Canada car in turn number 8. But again, this also poses a little bit of a problem for these drivers in trying to maintain that tire temperature. We know certain sections of the track are slick and slippery because of that Irish mist that continues to fall in certain places. Obviously caught out the 88 of Ali in turn number 8. You can see some drops on the camera lens on several areas of the track in the entrance of turn 4. Turn 5 appears to be one of the worst spots, and then of course down the Andretti straightaway is where we have seen it as well. But the drivers swerving side to side, trying to keep as much heat in those tires as they possibly can. But just before we went to caution, I was going to give you an example of how much the track had changed because of this moisture, and you can see a little bit of a dry line at times down that straightaway. But Woolridge was turning laps around a minute 30, a minute 29. His quickest lap of the race was a minute 22. So that just gives you a pretty good idea of how tricky the conditions turned in really just a couple minutes. And it's up to the driver to adapt that quickly and trying to figure out a way to A, stay safe, and B, stay fast.
And that minute 22.174 that I would think is going to end up being the fastest lap of the race. Woolridge turned that very early in the event. It came on lap number 6. And then after that, the track conditions continued to deteriorate, and then we saw those lap times tail off into the 26s and 27s. And so as we run under the full course yellow, the 77 of Jonathan Woolridge, the CJ Campbell Emzone sponsored Radical Cup car, your leader, 007 Robert Soroka, already with a couple of podium finishes, taking 3rd in races 1 and 2 yesterday, sits 2nd. 31, Matt Graham, 2nd in the championship. The driver chasing him for the number 2 and runner-up spot is Kenny Reedman. He is down in 6th. Kenny a little bit off the pace that he showed here yesterday when he finished 2nd in both races to Jonathan Woolridge. Matt Graham, 31, sits 3rd. 4th is 32, Daniel Ali in car number 32. Daniel Ali was 13th in race 1 and 9th in race 2. And here he is in the top 5, sitting 4th. He'll go from the outside of row number 2. Then it is 07, Tim Sanderson, who has recovered from that spin at Moss Corner. Then the 42 of Kenny Reedman, 6th. Stephen Shen in car number 37th. 8th is 12, Mark Boyd. 9th is 47, Jonathan Labbe. And then rounding out the top 10, the 33 of Doug Allingham. 11th is 71, Hugh Leahy. And then 12th is the 8 of Jim Hallman. Adam Ali, of course, out of the race and on pit road, and retired 99 Alan Shaw, along with the 73 of Peter Dyke. Both of those drivers headed to the pits very early. And Kelly Smith, 28, was one of the non-starters. And Jeff Williams, we've mentioned his name. He had entered the weekend, but some other pressing matters came up, so Jeff never arrived here at the racetrack, as he had probably what he would consider a disappointing first season in the Radical Cup car. So under the full course yellow, the field works its way down the start-finish straightaway. This will be lap number 21 going up on the books. We're coming up on about 7 minutes remaining.
I gotta say, Pat, hats off to the cleanup crew here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. They actually dragged the 88 of Adam Ali back off the racing surface in turn number 8. So he's to the outside of the racetrack. They took a quick look. All wheels were pointed in the same direction still. Just a lot of body damage on the front end of the 88 car. So they're able to just tie a rope to it, drag it back into one of the runoff areas in turn number 8. So the cleanup is essentially complete. They'll take a quick look at the tire wall, make sure everything's in order. And it looks like we should be able to get back to green flag action before the clock strikes 0 here on this timed race for the Emzone Radical Cup Canada Series. Here, race number 1 of a beautiful Sunday. I mean, any day you're at a racetrack, it's a beautiful Sunday, isn't it?
Well, above those clouds, the sun is still shining, as I'm often told. And right now, as they work their way through turn number 4, headed to Moss Corner, we're going to be focused on that Camaro safety car. As soon as the lights get turned off, that'll be the indication to the drivers that we are going to be going back to green. They're just running out of turn 5B and heading up the Andretti straightaway. And we'll see whether or not, in fact, we will go back to green next time by.
One good thing for the 77 of Jonathan Woolridge is he continues to try to string together that perfect season. He will have at least one lap car in between himself and the 007 of Robert Soroka, who's currently second on the running order. So that'll be a little bit of a breather as they head into turn number 1, and it looks like the field is set to go back to green this time by. So the pace car pulls out a bit of a gap as Jonathan Woolridge closes down the field and slows it down into turn number 8. The field packs up. It's a single file restart for the Radical Cup Canada cars, and it will be led by the Emzone sponsored number 77 of Jonathan Woolridge as he eases his way through turn number 8 and turn number 9. We'll see what the 07 can do. Soroka will look to get past the lap car of Leahy. The 71 is in between first and second, so it's up to Soroka to make that pass quickly as Woolridge gets on the gas. A little wiggle out of the 77, and we go back to green.
And there is the charge down into turn 1 by Jonathan Woolridge. And there's a move coming up on the outside. Sanderson and also Ali in car number 32 is right there. And that 71 car, who is running a lap down, Leahy, really getting in the way of those chasing cars, trying to run down Jonathan Woolridge, who has opened up a big gap, diving in around the outside and into that second place position.
Yeah, so now Leahy gets swallowed up by a couple of cars, but leading the charge is the 32 of Daniel Ali, who had a great restart up on the outside in turn number 1. He's up to second position. The 007 of Soroka back to third. Stephen Chen is in fourth, along with Sanderson, who they're side by side on the exit at turn 5. The big loser on that restart was the 31 of Matt Graham, who dropped way down the running order, and he's now in a gaggle of race cars. I believe he's battling side by side with the 42 of Kenny Reedman right now.
Well, this is an amazing run for Daniel Ali and that Shopify sponsored race car running in the second. They'll go side by side here for third over the crest of the hill, and Sanderson will grab the position. 30 Chen, followed by Kenny Reedman back in the 5th place spot.
Soroka took a look underneath the 32 of Daniel Ali in turn number 8. Could not make that pass stick, as still Woolridge out in front. 1.1 seconds as those two cars battled side by side. Ali and Soroka for second spot. Tim Sanderson back up into 4th. Remember, he had that issue in turn number 5 when the rain started to fall early on. He was under pressure from the 007 of Robert Soroka and went for a half spin, that car getting sideways, but now find himself back up into 4th spot. We know that car is very, very fast, and here comes the 31 of Graham taking a look underneath the 42 of Kenny Reedman. So Graham has settled back down after that initial restart. where he lost several positions. Graham currently running in 7th spot.
Jonathan Woolridge was about 0.8 of a second out in front. Here's the battle between Reedman and Matt Graham. Graham will dive in on the inside to retake the position, and pulling up alongside Mark Boyd in that black number 12 car. They're just about 3 wide through 5C.
Good draft down the straightaway for the number 12 of Mark Boyd as we watch this battle a little deeper in the field. 7th, 8th, 9th. All on the table here, along with 6th place Kenny Reedman. Reedman up on the outside, so he'll lose at least 1 spot to the 31 of Matt Graham into turn number 8. And it looks like the 12 of Mark Boyd is going to try and follow him through as well. Don't know if Boyd was able to complete that pass. No, it's side by side in 9 now, and they'll follow that way. Still side by side into 10. Now the 12 car will work his way around the 42 of Kenny Reedman.
We have got less than 2 minutes to go. Jonathan Woolridge has opened up a 1.6 second advantage over the 32 Shopify sponsored car of Daniel Ali. Then it's the 007 of Robert Soroka in 3rd, 07 Tim Sanderson 4th. The 30 of Stephen Chen is 5th, 31 Matt Graham in 6th, 12 Mark Boyd 7th, Kenny Reedman down into 8th, 47 Jonathan Labbe is 9th. And then it is 33 Doug Allingham rounding out your top 10.
Daniel Ali keeping the 77 of Jonathan Woolridge really honest here today in this late going 1.6 seconds. The difference between 1st and 2nd. Soroka continues to hold 3rd spot, but well within striking distance of that 32 as they hitch up together in tow down the Andretti straightaway, nose to tail. The battle again for 4th and 5th, the 07 Tim Sanderson has it. The 30 of Stephen Chen wants it as they follow nose to tail into turn number 8. Again, back up to this dice for 2nd spot. The 32 holds it. The 07 took a quick peek in turn number 8, follows single file through 9 and 10 and onto the front straightaway as the white flag waves for Jonathan Woolridge. 1 more lap to go. And all he has to do is maintain his lead. Now 1.8 seconds at the front of the field.
Jonathan Woolridge less than a lap away from the perfect season as he works up under the bridge into the bottom of turn number 1. That race for 2nd. Daniel Ali, 32, trying to hang on here for a podium finish. And for Robert Soroka, he's been 3rd a couple of times. He'd like to go 1 better here with less than a lap to go. The race leader heads for turn 4. Tim Sanderson 07 in 4th, 30 Stephen Chen 5th, 31 Matt Graham 6th. As that battle for the 2nd place position, this one's going to go right down to the wire. It's just a couple of car lengths apart. 32 Daniel Ali just ahead of the 007 of Robert Soroka. It looks like Jonathan Woolridge is gone here on the back straightaway.
And Ali will be watching his mirrors down this straightaway. He tucks to the inside, taking that defensive line because he knows the 007 is there, and in striking distance to the outside goes the 007, and he tries to stick it in turn number 8, and he does as the 007 goes through for 2nd spot with 2 corners remaining through 9 and now onto 10, but out in front and seeing the checkered flag. A perfect season has been capped by the driver of the 77, Jonathan Woolridge. Daniel Ali falls a little bit short. He'll come home in 3rd spot as Robert Soroka holds on to that 2nd position off of 10. As we go through and try to find the official results here for the Emzone Radical Cup Canada Series, we do know for sure it is the 77 of Jonathan Woolridge, again capping his perfect season. 10 for 10 in points races here in this season. Again, notching the fastest lap of the race, set in lap number 6 under drier conditions, but the 77 perfect all weekend, perfect all season. So we can take you through the final running order. Jonathan Woolridge, Robert Soroka, then it's the 32 of Daniel Ali, Tim Sanderson, Stephen Chen, Matt Graham, Mark Boyd, Kenny Reedman, Jonathan Labbe, and Doug Allingham round out the top 10. Hugh Leahy in 11th, Jim Hallman in 12th spot. And then, of course, Adam Ali in the 88 failed to finish, currently marked in the 13th position as far as the finishing order goes. But a big congratulations to your top 3 finishers. Jonathan Woolridge, Robert Soroka manages to come home and snag that 2nd spot on the podium. And Daniel Ali, a podium finish here today as well.